This is River's Edge Today. I'm Dr. David J. Rogers, and we're here with Brooke Freeman. Brooke, we're talking about ministry to widows and how can we serve them in their need. But we also, as we kind of put it, is like you got to own it. For the person who is going through this. And I like to say the person who's going through it more so than widow, because there, as you mentioned, there's a stigma to widows. And, an older culture, they would dress all in black, and there was, you had to be a year or more in mourning and all of this stuff. And you really couldn't talk to them. And then you have the spinster widow who is this angry older woman, and like, there's a person on the inside.
Yes.
Who was made in the image and likeness of God, who is hurting like nobody's business, who needs to have someone communicate to them. But, we can't help that person until that person is letting us help them.
It's very, very true. One thing that we encounter with some of the ladies is, I don't want to be called a widow. Okay. Well, what would you like to be referred to? And being able to help them see them as God sees them, right? So, like, widow is not their identity. It is something that they're living out, but it is what God has decided to call them in Scripture, right?
Yeah.
And He has a lot of care and concern for the widow throughout Scripture. And so instead of it being a curse, or the scarlet letter that you're wearing that now has to go to this special place in the church in your own separate Sunday school class, or whatever it is that if you can hear God's heart towards widows, and you can understand you didn't choose to be here, right? But that God is going to meet you here. And in being able to know that, like, you don't know what your needs are from start to finish, right? You don't even sometimes know what day it is, or when the last time is you brushed your teeth on some days in grief. But to be able to say, you know what, I am here and I'm going to need help. I don't know what all that help looks like, but I'm going to need help and I'm going to have to receive it. Not because it's due me, but because that's how God created the church. That He has called the church as a privilege to be able to serve and come alongside you in this space. But you have to first say, okay, Lord, this is where I am. And I know you're going to meet me here, but how do I move forward? Not on, we've talked about that. How do I move forward in widowhood? How is it that I live now without my husband? How is it that I serve now? How is it that I participate in the body now? How is it that I exist now as a woman whose husband is no longer here, present with me?
And we mentioned it earlier, that we getting to the place where someone who has experienced widowhood, loss of the spouse, is we as the church need to be in a position where we allow them to become comfortable enough in their experience. And I know that sounds like psychology and stuff because, well, it's psychology and stuff. But they have to become comfortable in their experience to where they feel that they have the freedom to be able to discuss that. And you have to be that person on the other side of that, that you don't have a solution. And a lot of guys are goal-oriented, mission-oriented. And it's like, I'm going to find a solution. Or you're that caring pastor. It's like, well, I went through grief counseling and you got to, ABC 1, 2, 3. Sometimes you give them a cup of coffee, you sit there and you learn, Mm-hmm.
The
Mm-hmm.
ministry of presence,
You
right?
just let them get it out of the system, and you're being there. And when they talk about no one comes around to visit because so and so is gone,
Mm-hmm.
you go like, well, we need to fix that. We're having lunch next Thursday, and you would think, well, that's not real. You know, that doesn't solve anything. Yeah, it does.
It does.
It I can't say names, but it tremendously does.
It makes a huge difference, is to be seen, right? Because as women, when we become someone's wife, right, that becomes the main source of our identity, as the Lord has ordered, right? Is we become a helper to them, and so then it's I am Mrs. His name.
Yeah.
And when you lose that, the one flesh, when half of that is ripped from you, there is this void that is there that none of us can fill, right? Like we can't, and none of us can step into that position. My current husband can't even step into that, even though I am now married, and it's a loss that still exists that there is space for, right?
Right.
But being able to allow people in the church coming alongside to say, I see you. I see you as a person. I see you as a woman. I see you as someone who is gifted with talents from the Lord. I see you as someone who has needs, as someone who's enjoyable to be around,
Yes.
right? That you invite them back into life and to participate in that fellowship.
Absolutely. And you know, we as a church, we need to be inclusive. We need to look at those people that are in our church, especially those who are widows, is help them find that repurpose in their life, and that new self-identity, acknowledge that, and allow them to have a place to go. Yeah, Brooke, this has been awesome conversation.